You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The views expressed by the individuals during this broadcast are their own opinions, and they may not be the same as those of their group or other organizations they may be involved with.
All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's July the 3rd, and welcome to Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, found here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca. Cindy, are you seeing that same notification that I'm seeing?
Yeah, I was just looking at it right weird.
Yeah, it seems to be a Facebook issue going on right now. And
Just for that one room though.
Yeah, it's just the one. I'm just gonna remove that. Okay. And then I'm just going to see if I can reconnect it there. And hopefully it works. Yeah.
See.
It's doing its search thing right now. So we'll see what happens. All right.
We get
So how's things doing exciting today? Hey, we're back at TY. We got lost there, but we're back. I don't know what happened.
It's a day already. We've
Oh no. I know, eh? Yeah, but you almost think we had a week off.
We're out of practice. Something has happened.
Yes. So how was Canada? How was? Oh, look at that! It fell off again. Oh well. Okay. I'll just remove it. It's just the one spot. It'll be gone. Yeah. Who knows? I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on there, but nonetheless, the show has to go on, right?
That is true.
Right. So how was last week?
Good. I haven't seen you since last Thursday, and I went to Lenny Kravitz. We had a music festival going on here in Nova Scotia in Halifax, an outdoor music festival. Nickelback was the headliner one night. Lenny Kravitz was on a Saturday night, and a band called The Killers was on Sunday night. So I went to Lenny Kravitz in the absolute pouring rain, and it was amazing. The only thing I would change, two things. I would bring an umbrella because I had a raincoat but not an umbrella, and I would have ate more mushrooms. He puts on the screens that he has behind him. He's got like 20-foot screens behind him that take up the whole stage and on either side. And they are very psychedelic friendly. Like what he has, everything's melting, and I'm just like, oh, I should have had more mushrooms. Like I really should have. Like it was spectacular. And so he put on a great show. You wouldn't think that the man is older than me. Like you would have thought he was in his 20s, the way he was up there rocking, going. I mean, I don't know what the rock stars are doing, but man, like he was moving around like a kid. Put on a great show. Yeah.
Oh, hey. Just never know. You just never know.
And then there's me out in the audience, barely moving in the rain, and I can still barely move because of all the dampness and all the stuff. But I
know. Oh,
it was well worth it. Well worth it.
Yeah, it was. Well, that's good. Yeah.
How about you? How was your weekend?
My weekend was spent relaxing, sitting in a chair, and doing something that I haven't done in a while, and I needed to do it, and that was to delete some pictures off my phone. My phone gave me notice that it was basically full. I have 128 gigs, 127.5 was used up. Even Messenger was telling me that it wasn't there wasn't enough room on my phone to operate properly. So I needed to do an update, and I needed 15 gigs of space to do an update. I ate half. So as of now, I have deleted over 2,000 photos, and I have created 10,000 gigs of space, and I'm still 5 gigs short to update my phone. So I still have to delete like another 1,000 pictures and videos.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
That's what I did over the weekend.
Fun.
And I've taken a bunch more since then. The deer out there this morning were out in the field. I had to take some pictures of them. Right?
Oh, of course.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's right. All right, we should get on to the news before we run out of time. And just before we get started, here we go.
Good morning, Carolyn.
Yeah, good morning, Carolyn. How you doing? All righty. Get the news going here. First story. It's ready. It's up.
Coming to us from Cannabis Law Report. We spoke about this story a little while ago, and now we're going to do the follow-up. The come down, it says, cannabis seeds and human remains, payload sent to space, didn't make it, and a crash, into the Pacific.
That's right. Exactly. We've seen some pretty interesting payloads to space since the first satellite launched on October 4th, 1957 for access to space has increased thanks largely to the commercial space industry. So too have the types of payloads that we are sending. Consider the Nike's capsule created by German aerospace startup, the Exploration Company, which launched on June the 23rd from the Vandenberg Space Force Base atop Falcon 9 rocket as part of the rideshare mission Transporter 14.
The payload for this flight, dubbed Mission Possible, included the ashes and DNA of more than 166 deceased people provided by Celtris, which is a Texas-based memorial space flight company. While the mission achieved orbit and a controlled re-entry, the capsule's landing parachutes failed to deploy before landing. This caused the Nix capsule to crash into the Pacific Ocean on June 24th, causing all of its cargo to be lost at sea.
This was the first time the Exploration Company sent customers payloads to space, equivalent to roughly 660 pounds of cargo. In a statement posted on LinkedIn, the company described the flight as a partial success, partial failure, as per their statement.
Yeah, the capsule was launched successfully, powered the payloads nominally in orbit, stabilized itself after separation with the launcher, re-entered and re-established communication after blackout, but it encountered an issue afterwards based on our current best knowledge, and we lost communication a few minutes before splashdown. We are still investigating the root causes and will share more information soon. We apologize to all of our clients who entrusted us with their payloads. We thank our teams for their hard work and their dedication to success. We have been pushing boundaries in record time and cost. This partial success reflects both ambition and the inherent risks of innovation, leveraging the technical milestones achieved yesterday and the lessons we will extract from our ongoing investigation. We will then prepare to refly as soon as possible.
Well, hopefully they do. So you're probably wondering, where does cannabis come in all this? Well, in addition to human remains and other payloads, Nix also carried cannabis plant matter and seeds provided by Martian Grow, obviously, now open source citizen science project. The purpose was to study the effects of microgravity on the germination and resilience, potentially providing insight into how life could adapt and fare in the Martian environment.
The first mission Bikini launched a smaller re-entry capsule in July of 2024 atop an Ariane 6 rocket, but the capsule remained in orbit after the rocket's upper stage failed to launch it and its re-entry trajectory. This latest mission aimed to test key technologies and verify the Nix capsule's ability to transport cargo to space. It hoped that future iterations of the capsule will fly spacecraft to destinations in low Earth orbit, LEO, including the International Space Station and/or its successor stations. It'd be interesting to see if they can actually do it. I mean, they lost it all at sea, so they can't even know if they can do this grow in space.
Correct, exactly. And last week they were talking about they had all kinds of let's get this thing done. It's gonna go, and then to have it crash. Sorry for the loved ones that went down with it, but now they're talking about it's going to be probably a couple of years before they get to do it again.
Oh, that'll suck. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Sharon, she says she's good, but she's frustrated today.
Sending love, Carolyn.
Yeah. Let's hope the day gets better for you. That's for sure. Okay. Let's move on to the next story, which yet again, we got 3 of our stories today are basically follow-ups to stories that we did within the last week, because we haven't been around for a week. So here we go. Next story.
Yes, coming to us from Mugglehead Magazine. Thai cannabis advocates plan rally against imminent recriminalization.
I'm glad to see that they're going to do something. They're not just going to sit back and just, okay, all right, you're going to recriminalize it again and just leave it. So it's good to see that they're fighting back. Several disgruntled Thai cannabis enthusiasts will soon be staging a protest over their country's plan to eliminate the adult use market that opened in 2022 through decriminalization measures. Now, on July the 7th, they will be picketing outside the Ministry of Health's headquarters in the Nanthapura province, a U.S. $1 billion industry, and countless shops are being threatened by Thailand's plan to return to strictly permitting medicinal cannabis.
The health ministry issued an order Tuesday outlining the new measures. It will come into force once published in the country's Royal Gazette, which is expected to occur in the coming days without opposition. Cannabis will be classified as a narcotic in the future, said Somskas Thesputin, Thailand's Minister of Public Health.
Since 2022, a highly lucrative but largely unregulated industry has emerged in the country. Tourists from throughout Asia have been coming to Thailand to indulge in legal bud, and many locals invested heavily in dispensaries to capitalize on the travelers. Now, despite the gray market's substantial economic stimulation, government officials have become increasingly concerned about unprecedented usage among children and youth that has resulted.
It's a festering problem, and we have received so many complaints, that Stutin stated. Other nations have also been putting pressure on the country to shutter its adult use sector due to large quantities of Thai pot being consistently smuggled into their countries. This trend has been prevalent in Britain, particularly Europe and abroad.
It's massively increased over the last couple of years, says Becky Wright in a statement provided to the BBC. She is a spokesperson from the National Crime Agency in London. Between 2023 and 2024, the number of people caught smuggling Thai cannabis into the United Kingdom rose from 142 per year to 800, Wright highlighted.
India, wow. Sri Lanka, Georgia, Hong Kong, and Pakistan have also been intercepting an elevated number for illegal Thai weed packages since 2022. Asia will soon return to having 0 countries where recreational cannabis is a legal facet of the economy. Well, I mean, here in Canada, we've had that happen. We have, California cannabis coming up, and we have hash from all over the world that comes in.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, you can still go to events and see it listed right there, Moroccan and different countries.
Yeah,
exactly. So, but it's too bad. What's going to happen there. I can see where things. They didn't have any laws against it. It was really a bit of a Wild West. Maybe a little bit of regulation might have been better than reducing it completely to medicinal only.
Yep.
But yeah, that's unfortunate. All right, third story in a row. Bit of a comeback. This is something we touched on this in a large way in our last show on Thursday, and that was on the CHS, the cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, and so on and so forth. And the both of us shared the story on our walls.
Lots of comments about it.
Yeah. So this story here, this one is, I'm going to say, basically another version of the story. They're going to talk about it and numbers and the whole bit. So more information, let's say. So here we go.
More information. Just a second. Cover the eyes. That's what they do. Coming to us, I'm going to be quiet now. Coming to us from CBC, regular cannabis use can cause a serious vomiting syndrome. Should people be warned?
Yeah. Let's see. When Brittany Ramsey started experiencing awful stomach episodes, she thought it must have been side effects of the medication she was taking to manage her diabetes. But after particularly grueling episodes, which she just could not stop vomiting, not being kept down, even small sips of water, that landed her in hospital, Ramsey knew something felt different about what she was experiencing.
Absolutely. Pesticides are terrible things. From then, the episodes got worse and worse and closer together, said Ramsey, who is a 35-year-old operations trainer at a financial firm in Cincinnati, Ohio. From 2021 to 2024, 3 years, I was hospitalized 29 times, 5 ambulance trips. One actually had to pick me up on the side of the road because I couldn't make it to the hospital. After years of undergoing, at times, invasive testing procedures to rule out Crohn's disease, gastropapitis, diverticulitis, a doctor told Ramsey about cannabis hyperemesis syndrome, CHS.
And there she is right there. Now, in recent years, some emergency rooms have been seeing an uptick in visits due to psychedelic episodes of uncontrollable vomiting in cannabis users, often criticized for or characterized by experiencing temporary relief with hot showers and baths. Since it was first identified in medical literature in 2004, CHS cases have increased, possibly because of greater cannabis access or higher THC potency of products, or I'm going to add maybe pesticides.
Yep. I've actually helped a number of people with CHS, and first thing I do is find out where they're getting their cannabis from, and then get them a clean supply, and the CHS goes away, because it is about how the medicine is grown. Public health researchers suggest more awareness of CHS within the healthcare system is needed for cannabis users to get the information and support they need. Yes. They need true information. CHS is characterized by severe and persistent vomiting and is usually seen in people who have been using cannabis several times a week for multiple years. This is coming to us from Jamie Seabrook, a professor at the Department of Epidemiology and Biostatistics at Western University in London, Ontario.
Ramsey says she's been smoking at least once a day for over 10 years since she was 18 when she first started experiencing CHS symptoms in 2017. A 2022 study by researchers at the Ottawa Hospital Research Institute looked at the rate of emergency department visits for CHS after recreational cannabis was legalized and commercialized in Ontario, looking at nearly 13,000 CHS-related hospitalizations in Ontario from 8,140 individuals between 2014 and 2021. 13,000 people go to hospital wow.
But these are 13,000 brand new users that went, oh, it's legal, I'm allowed to use it now. So how can it be CHS if CHS is caused by using it every day over years? These people only started using it in 2017. So it makes no sense. And if it makes no sense, it can't be true. You know, so think about it, people. You got to do some deeper diving with it. You know, it is how the cannabis is grown. And, you know, there are people that have sued licensed producers. I'm one of them because we have had bad cannabis. So, like, technically, the government gave me CHS, if you want to look at it that way. If they want to, like, you know, blame it on the cannabis. So I'm baffled by it. It's something that really grinds my gears, as they would say, on because it's something that it's not the plant. It is not the plant. It is what it is, how it is grown. It is the pesticides that aren't fleshed out, wrong pesticides being used. I even had one lady, her supplier was growing the cannabis in a swamp. Like, oh my God, like smoking that. Oh yeah. And if you can get people away from the dirty cannabis and onto clean stuff, like it changes completely for these people.
Yeah. Now, they say the study published in the Journal of American Medical Association found that emergency department visits related to CHS had increased 13-fold over a period of nearly 8 years. Yeah. The study doesn't show that what caused the change, but authors noted the biggest increase in visits came not after legalization in 2018, after Ontario allowed expansion of retail stores in 2020, which coincided with the COVID thing. So they didn't notice it until after 2020 when the stores expanded.
Wow. Yeah. Though we don't have numbers how many people have been diagnosed or hospitalized with CHS, online communities are filled with people looking for support. Ramsey is part of one of them, a CHS Facebook group described as a safe place to recover and learn with 3,000 members. The largest CHS Facebook group has 31,000 members. On Reddit, the group r/CHS info has 20,000 members, with discussions ranging from tips on how to manage episodes and personal anecdotes about repeated hospitalizations.
Yeah, like this number is just wow. I just went, what? Now, C. Burke, who co-authored a recent review of existing research in CHS and use, said there's been an explosion of people showing up in some North America emergency rooms with CHS within the last 7 to 8 years. The Ottawa Hospital Research
neem oil.
Huh?
I said, when did we start using neem oil?
Yeah, well, yeah, a long time ago, actually. Yeah. The Ottawa Hospital Research Institute study showed that other cannabis-related emergency room visits, including the intoxication and dependence, saw a substantial increase starting in early 2020 as well.
Yeah. Seabrook said a likely reason for increased rates of CHS is the high THC potency of cannabis products today. THC is the compound in cannabis that is responsible for the sensation of a high most people experience when consuming it. When its potency increases, so do its harmful effects. I think we've all greened out from time to time.
Oh yeah, I have. Oh yeah, I've greened out for sure. That was when I was drinking, especially when I was drinking back over 20 years ago. But yeah, we've all greened out. Different strains of plant will have different concentrations, of active compounds measured by percentage of total weight. The potency of THC was only about 3% in the 1980s, and today, according to the Health Canada, it's averaging at 15%, with strains as high as 30%. Citing Health Canada numbers for fresh and dried herbal material.
Right. So we're talking a 400% or higher increase in potency. And for chemical concentrated extracts such as hash oil, shatter, butter, and wax, the typical potency can be up to 90%, according to Health Canada data.
And hash, how old's hash?
Yep. Hash and hash oil.
How old's cannabis oil? Didn't they wipe that on someone's feet at one time? So I don't know. Now below there, we'll go down to the lawsuit. This is a lawsuit was recently brought against Canadian cannabis production company Aurora Cannabis for the alleged negligence of failing to warn consumers about the potential risk of developing CHS from regular use of its products. The lawsuit was certified by the Ontario Superior Court of Justice last month, meaning it can proceed as a class action. Now, Margaret Weddell, the lawyer prosecuting the case, says she hopes that if the lawsuit is successful, it could have industry-wide effect, including CHS in their product labeling. Like, do they put caution, don't drink too much alcohol, you're going to get sick? No. And the beer?
Cannabis hypermesis.
I don't buy beer, so I don't know what all comes on warning labels anymore.
If we look at CHS, like the fact that, if we can get rid of all the pesticides and whatnot, and we just have beautiful, clean weed, some people still are going to get sick. We have green outs. Like, and the last time I greened out was right after my first iboga trip, where they told me, watch out, Cindy, your cannabinoid receptors have all been cleaned out and reset. It's like you're a new user again. And so I carried on like I was, carried on before iboga. Yeah. And I, technically, I mean, like if I had gone to the hospital, this is what I would have been diagnosed with, CHS. But what it was I put too much cannabis into my system and I just completely greened out. I vomited it up and then I slept for 20 hours and I was fine.
Fine. There you go. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Okay, I think we got another paragraph or two here left and we're done.
Sure. Ideally, Health Canada will require them at some point. What else said? Health Canada does require cannabis manufacturers to warn customers about specific risks, including psychotic symptoms, addiction, and dependence. But what else said? There aren't currently any requirements to specifically include CHS in those warnings. Aurora Cannabis declined to comment on the lawsuit, writing in an emailed statement, "It is the company's practice not to comment on legal matters beyond information that is made available to the public."
Yeah, and Seaboard finishes off saying that information exists is very important in schools and healthcare settings with its neurologists, psychiatrists, and public health officials, so we can better inform decisions. Now, I'm gonna throw something back that we always get thrown at us. I think we need more studies. They're just throwing out it's a possibility it's a THC. Is there any studies saying this?
No.
Don't they have to have some type of study in order to put a warning or anything? Or they
exactly.
We have to have all these studies that go on for years to prove medical benefits, but hearsay works.
But this has been happening for years. Like, I mean, let's go right back to the movie Reefer Madness.
Yeah.
Right. And there have been any number of documentaries. And like when my mom was alive, God rest her soul, that she would, you got to watch this and you got to watch that. It's all these horrors of cannabis. And, and they never showed them a second time because they were lies. And the right people stood up and called them lies and brought attention to it. And, people stopped showing them. That'll be the same thing with articles like this. It's like, it's a lie. Like, at least tell us what's in the cannabis and at least recognize that there's more in the cannabis than just cannabis that these people are getting sick from. Right?
Yeah. And did you notice that the word pesticide, we never read off the word pesticide. Not once.
Nope. And we also, the last article brought up the fact that, like a lot of this stuff, a lot of these syndromes have been there since we introduced neem oil as a pesticide and we're using it. And so that makes me wonder, like, what the frig is in neem oil?
Yeah, I remember neem oil was around when I started growing medicinally. So that's 20 years. It was around before then. But
no, it showed up in 2000. CHS showed up in 2004 when neam oil came out.
But it's been around longer than that.
But you said 20 years. 2004 is 21 years ago. So
I'm sure neem oil has been. Yeah, we'd have to do some research before we knew for sure.
We need a study.
That's right. Yeah, I just see them because they say they even mention about they're not even sure it's a THC. They just there's the accusation. So they need more research. They should have more. They should do studies on that. But yeah, people green out just like people drink too much alcohol and get sick.
Yep. Except for we don't have to end up in the hospital when we green out, and alcohol syndrome will get you in the hospital. So.
Yeah. So, all right. Move on to our last story before we go to break. Here we go.
Coming to us from Marijuana Moment. Hawaii governor signs medical marijuana expansion bill after calling one of its provisions a grave violation of privacy.
Oh. On the heels of signaling a possible veto of a bill meant to expand access to medical cannabis in Hawaii, Governor Josh Green instead signed the measure into law over the weekend, regardless of a provision he recently described as a grave violation of privacy. HB 302 will make two main reforms around patient access. First, It allows a patient's primary treating medical provider to recommend cannabis for any malady they see fit, regardless of whether it's a specified qualified condition in Hawaii. It also allows patients to receive medical cannabis recommendations through telehealth visits rather than having to establish an in-person relationship with a provider. I'm sure there's a but here.
Yes. Before lawmakers sent the bill to Green, a conference committee revised the plan, inserting a provision to allow the state Department of Health to access medical cannabis patient records held by doctors for any reason whatsoever.
Whoa.
Ooh. Yeah, the revised bill authorizes the Department of Health to inspect a qualifying patient's medical records held by the physician, advanced practice registered nurse, or hospice provider who issued a written certification for the qualifying patient. Providers who don't comply with a department request for a patient's records could see their ability to issue medical cannabis revoked.
Advocates initially supported HB 302 as a means to expand access to patients with conditions beyond those specified under state law, but many withdrew support following the conference's committee's changes. An additional provision establishes a new Class C felony for unlicensed operation of a dispensary, adding another major charge on top of the state's existing laws against illegal distribution of cannabis.
In early June, Green himself put the cannabis measure on a list of bills he intended to veto, an indication, though not a commitment, that he was leaning towards rejecting it. Although this bill's authorization of medical cannabis certifications via telehealth expands access to medical cannabis, his office wrote at the time, provisions authorizing the inspection of patients' medical records without warrant constitute a grave violation of policy.
Yeah, privacy for sure. Green acknowledged patients might be especially concerned about removing privacy protections given that cannabis remains federally illegal, noting that those concerns could actually limit enrollment in state legal systems. It shouldn't be accessed by the federal government for sure. Given that the federal government classifies cannabis as a Schedule I substance, his office said at the time, patients' reasonable fears of repercussions based upon information gained from inspection of their personal medical records may deter patients from participating in the medical cannabis program. Yeah, here for sure.
Yeah. The bill remained on the governor's intent to veto list even after the office revised it a week ago. In signing HB 302 into law on Sunday, Green did not indicate what led to his change of heart.
Nikos Lorenz of the Drug Policy Forum of Hawaii and the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center told Marijuana Moment that he felt that the state has moved backwards, protecting individual autonomy around cannabis in the past year, and HB 302 is an exemplar of that regression, providing government attorneys with the authority to inspect doctor-patient records and funding more law enforcement positions will serve to further deteriorate an already anemic medical cannabis system in Hawaii, he wrote in an email. Yeah, that's good.
Leverenz called on Green to take the lead and advance bills in the next legislative session that actually serve to expand access to medical cannabis. Measures towards this end include statutory employment protections for registered medical cannabis patients, authorizing access to medical cannabis products for patients in hospice and long-term care settings, Ryan's Law, and allowing certifying providers broad professional discretion to recommend its use, he added.
Some lawmakers warned at the time of the conference committee changes to the HB 302 that its new medical records provision would be a sticking point for would-be patients. The medical cannabis community has expressed its opposition to this breach of confidentiality. Rep. Kim Coco Awamato says last month, especially since it is authorized without any suspicion of wrongdoing and without a warrant. This will further deter already low patient and provider participation. For sure.
Iwamoto, I think, called the proposal unprecedented given the degree of respect our state has previously demonstrated for patient-doctor privileges and how often the state defers to the expertise of physicians and healthcare providers. Other measures recently sent to the governor's desk include SB 1429, which would allow medical cannabis caregivers to grow cannabis on behalf of up to 5 patients rather than just the current one. Green signed that bill late last month.
All right, I'm going to shut her down there because we've covered basically the headline, and I see that we're getting a little long.
Us? Never.
That's never. No. But that's too bad. Let's hopefully they can get that privacy thing dealt with because, like I know we signed to allow Health Canada to give permission for the, like, if the police contact them looking for a medical license, Health Canada can communicate with them and say, yes, that person does have a medical license.
And that's it.
That's it. It's not about giving out all the patient's details and their medical records. Like, holy jeepers. Yeah, that's not right. Not right whatsoever. All right. Talking about getting things right, let's get right to break. It's a commercial break. Time to hear from those who help us inform our viewers. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News, found here at paceradio.net and 420pace.ca.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. Rerolled Saturdays. Check it out. Nothing but non-stop cannabis and psychedelic programming. Find it at 420pace.ca.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
PACE Radio is the People Advocating Cannabis Education Radio Network.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
All right, we're back. We got, 4 more stories to bring you if we get them all in. I think they're all probably normal length. There might be one that's a little long, but we'll find out. Here we go. First one is out.
Yeah, coming to us from StratCan. Alberta announces cannabis farm gate licensing. Go Alberta.
Go Alberta. Cannabis producers in Alberta can now apply for a license to sell cannabis products from a retail store at their production facility. In an announcement on July the 2nd, the province's cannabis regulator, the AGLC, said that effective immediately, cannabis suppliers may apply to AGLCs for a cannabis supplier retail store license, permitting cannabis suppliers to sell cannabis products produced at their processing cultivating facility directly to consumers from a store at the production facility.
Exciting. A cannabis supplier retail store means a store located at the cannabis supplier's production and or cultivation facility, also commonly referred to as a cannabis farm gate license. New Brunswick, Ontario, and BC all have similar programs. Under the new provincial rules, a cannabis supplier retail store must be located adjacent to the site of the supplier's cannabis production facility or otherwise be sufficiently close to that site, in the opinion of the AGLC's board.
That part, the opinion of the board's authority, it's a little vague, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now, the retail location must include a sales area, a separate entrance and exit, the ability to receive products, and a secure storage room and display for cannabis and accessories, among other factors. Drive-through windows are not allowed. Now, when a cannabis producer sells its products to its cannabis supplier's retail store, the AGLC is required to have received payment prior to the physical movement of the cannabis product from the production facility to the cannabis retail supplier retail store. Did you catch what that means?
When a cannabis producer sells its products to the cannabis supplier retail store.
Yeah. What they have to do is they have to pay AGLC for the cannabis. Ontario has the same setup, where a farm gate store has to give money to the province as if they had given the province the product, and then the product came back to the store. But instead of doing the actual moving, they just allow you to take it into your store, but they still want the money.
Yeah, they want their cut.
Correct.
So,
Correct.
I mean, if you sold it to them for $10, and then they put their cut on it, which is an extra $5. So now they're selling it for $15. You now have to pay them $5 so you can walk it from that building to that building.
Correct.
Cannabis supplier retail store, farm gate licensee, I'm going to shut up about that, is not allowed to sell products from other cannabis suppliers, sell cannabis online, or sell cannabis to a cannabis store licensee or another cannabis retailer, or deliver cannabis products. Cannabis supplier retail store license applications in Alberta are subject to review and approval by the AGLC, with the agency considering factors such as the appropriateness of the proposed premises, compliance with municipal requirements, Health Canada approval of the proposed premises, and the expressed views of the local community.
Wow, can you imagine you had to go through that to open a bar? AGLC also says it may refuse to issue a cannabis supplier retail store license if the applicant, any of the applicant's employees, any of the applicant's associates, or any person associated with the applicant fails to pass a records check. AGLC reportedly intended to launch such a program as part of the Red Tape Reduction Act in late 2023, but it was not included due to procedural error.
Yeah, they're not part of the Red Tape Reduction Act at all. Also, effective immediately, applicants for, let's just go back here a minute. I know we're running out of time and I'm sorry, but they want to go look at all of your associates.
Yeah.
Effective immediately, applicants for retail cannabis store positions or registered cannabis representative positions are no longer required to be certified as qualified cannabis workers, and as a result, no longer have to submit an application for qualified cannabis worker form. In addition, these positions are no longer required to submit a criminal record check from their local police services to the AGLC.
Ontario was the first province to launch a cannabis farm gate program, which it did in 2021. The first two locations were licensed in April 20th of that year. Ontario currently lists 5 licensed farm gate locations. New Brunswick became the second province to announce the Cannabis Farm Gate program, and that was in 2021, allowing for on-site selling of in-house products for local LPs, nurseries, and micros. And the province currently lists 7 such locations.
That's amazing. StratCan will also be visiting 4 of those Farmgate stores on August 16th. You go. In late 2022, British Columbia began allowing applications under its Farm to Gate producer retail store licensing model. Since the program's launch, only 3 companies have applied. The first opened in 2022. The second was licensed on September 12th, while the third opened in 2025.
There you go.
Click this link. You can read more about Canada's Cannabis Farmgate locations. Woohoo!
Woohoo! Yeah, but yeah, there you go. Farmgates. That's some people really like that. Obviously, products not sitting like it can be sitting in a factory warehouse someplace. So. Yeah,
I like the Farmgate. As long as you're only going for like they're only allowed to sell their own product, right? It's the same as a farmer that goes out to a farmer's market. It's not like they go gathering product from everybody. They take their product to sell. So as long as you only want to buy that person's product, it's awesome. You get a much better look at that. All of their product is in their store. You get a much better look at it. You can talk about it better because the person that's now selling it to you, the only thing they know is that product. And they have the ability to know way more about it. So that's really cool. But if you want variety, then, going to the stores, like the full-on stores is definitely your call.
Yeah. All right. On to the next story.
Coming to us from Inside Hook. Should weed be part of your wellness routine?
Well, I can tell you, I know a lot of people would agree with that and say yes. I was at my local dispensary recently. This is his opinion article. Recently eavesdropping on a jacked dude who seemed legitimately scared of THC. The juxtaposition of a giant guy afraid of getting high was endearing. As I listened closer, he said he was training for a fight and was looking for something with a CBD to help with pain relief. Like THC, CBD is a cannabinoid found in many cannabis products, but the main difference is that it doesn't produce the intoxicating effects. CBD is also permitted for athletes to use, whereas THC is prohibited by the World Anti-Doping Agency. So the big fella wasn't afraid of anything besides disqualification. Exactly. Mm-hmm. It's the rules.
Yeah. In the end, the bud tender explained that although he wasn't interested in THC products, a CBD gummy with a small amount of THC may still be better for pain management, at least post-competition. Though I suspect that the associate may have been merely upselling. Experts like Dr. William Trout, a licensed naturopathic doctor and True Leaves resident medical doctor, agrees with this advice. Some people don't want to feel any of the psychoactive effects, so we'll look for a very low dose type of THC product and one that's potentially more dominant in CBD, Trout tells me. You might still get a sense of well-being that comes along with it, but not necessarily what people may describe as feeling high.
The main reason why THC and CBD work better when combined is what scientists refers to as the entourage effect. Not to be confused with the early aughts HBO series, it's a theory among scientists and medical professionals that cannabis is most effective when multiple compounds of the plant are combined. Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, yes. In fact, there are hundreds of compounds in cannabis in addition to THC and CBD that could spark more than a good time, with the potential to support relaxation, pain management, and overall health.
Mm-hmm. As with any serious medical concerns, you'll want to consult with your doctor if you're considering integrating cannabis into your treatment regime. But for everyday aches and pains, a little non-psychoactive cannabis could be worth adding to your medicine cabinet, especially if you know what you're shopping for. With over 30 years of experience in cannabis research, Trout shared insight on how to find what cannabis products work best for you. to explain why THC is such an important cannabinoid, it's crucial to have an understanding of the endocannabinoid system. Although scientists are still figuring out the intricacies of this complex system, Trout says that we know based on the literature that the endocannabinoid system is the main system that's involved with coordinating homeostasis and the healing process.
The CES consists of two main cannabinoid receptors. CB1 receptors are found mainly in the brain and central nervous system, and CB2 receptors are found in cells throughout the immune system. These receptors are activated by natural endocannabinoids such as anandamide, which are enhanced in the body through healthy activities like exercise. CB1 and CB2 receptors are similarly be activated by cannabinoids found in plants like cannabis or made in a lab. Ooh.
No, not made in a lab.
Yeah, I know. It's like,
No.
oh.
THC is one of the most powerful among these compounds, but the other cannabinoids like CBD provide support to the activity of THC, Trout explains. That's why so many people choose to use THC, because having it in conjunction with these other cannabinoids provides an entourage effect on the system as a whole. Again, you don't need to consume a psychoactive amount of THC to activate the CB1 and 2 receptors. A microdose of 1 milligram may be enough when it's part of the entourage of other cannabinoids.
Yeah, maybe. Well, just a quick little story. I had over the weekend, I was talking to some fellows, and they were passing around gummies, and bags of gummies, passing around gummies. 5 milligrams. That's enough.
Yep.
That to them, that was enough. They said that the one fellow says 5 milligrams doesn't give me a bad trip.
Good.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So there you go with the amounts. Now, smoking or vaping weed may be more appealing to someone who wants the effects to kick in faster and wear off in a shorter time frame, a process of about 2 to 4 hours. But given the health risks associated with inhaling smoke and chemicals, it makes sense that this method would not appeal as much to someone searching for health hacks. As for edibles, most of these need to be digested and metabolized first, so they can take up to 2 hours to kick in, and the effects last up to 8 hours. This could be a good fit for someone looking for a good night's sleep rather than for immediate effects. Meanwhile, for individuals who want quicker relief but don't want to vape, Trout recommends looking for sublingual or oral muscle cannabis tinctures, edibles, and sprays. These products are absorbed in the mouth, so they enter the bloodstream faster than non-sublingual edibles.
Yeah. And, I'm just going to suggest that we end it there, but talk about the fact that he does go into suggesting strains that soothe, weed for sleep, for your gut, for appetite management, and helping the body heal. So if you go and take a read, you can find out some more very interesting information.
All right. I'll keep the story and make sure that it gets onto the Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News Facebook page.
Amazing.
All right. We'll move on. Yeah, because we've got 2 more stories to try to squeeze in here in those final minutes. And something tells me this is the one I was a bit concerned about in size-wise. But here we go. What's up?
Yeah, coming to us from MSN. Psychedelic compound blurs boundary between self and others in the brain, study finds.
A new study has found that a psychedelic formulation inspired by ayahuasca can significantly alter how the brain processes faces, especially one's own. The research shows that the compound changes both early visual perception and later self-referential processing, effectively weakening the brain's usual distinction between self and others. These findings, published in the journal Neuroimage, could help explain why psychedelics often produce feelings of ego delusion and correctness, and may shed light on their therapeutic potential for mental health conditions, including rigid self-focus. Go ahead.
Ayahuasca is a traditional psychoactive brew from the Amazon, typically made by combining a NN-DMT containing plant with another that inhibits the breakdown of the NN-DMT in the body. NN-DMT, short for NN tryptamine, is a powerful psychedelic compound that when taken on its own is rapidly broken down by enzymes in the gut. The other ingredient, usually a vine-containing harmine and other beta carbolines, blocks this breakdown and allows the NN-DMT to take effect. Together, these two substances produce an intense psychedelic experience characterized by vivid visuals, altered perception of self, and emotional insights. The researchers behind, it's really cool. The researchers behind the study set out to investigate how this combination of substances influence one specific domain of perception, how we recognize faces and distinguish between ourselves and others. Previous research has shown that psychedelics affect visual perception and the brain's default mode network, which is associated with referential thought. However, there has been little exploration of how psychedelics affect face recognition and the brain's response to familiar and unfamiliar faces.
Yeah, study author Delia Soya, postdoctoral research at the IMT School of Advanced Studies and the University of Zurich, says, "We were fascinated by how psychedelics like DMT alter the sense of self and blur boundaries between self and others. These effects are often described subjectively, but less is known about the neural basis, especially in relation to face perception, which plays a central role in social identity. This study aimed to investigate whether DMT harmine formulation could measurably affect how the brain differentiates between self and other faces."
To examine this, the researchers conducted a placebo-controlled experiment involving 30 healthy male volunteers. Each participant took part in 3 experimental sessions. In one session, they received a placebo. In another, they were given only harmine. And in the third, they received both the NN-DMT and harmine. The NN-DMT was administered through a nasal spray, while harmine was taken in tablet form. Each session was separated by a 2-week washout period. During each session, participants completed a face recognition task while wearing an EEG cap that recorded electrical activity in the brain. The task involved viewing a series of images on a screen, including pictures of their own face, faces of well-known celebrities they recognized, and completely unfamiliar faces. Occasionally, scrambled images were included as targets to ensure participants stayed focused.
The EEG allowed the researchers to track brain responses to the faces at different time points, focusing on 3 specific brain signals. The P1 signal appears very early, around 100 milliseconds after seeing a stimulus, and is associated with basic visual processing. The N170 signal, which occurs slightly later, is related to the brain's ability to recognize faces as faces. The P300 signal appears later still and reflects deeper cognitive processing, such as distinguishing between familiar and unfamiliar information and allocating attention to self-relevant stimuli. The results show that the combination of DMT and harmine altered face processing at all 3 stages. Across all face types, familiar and unknown, the DMT harmine mixture enhanced the P1 response. This suggests that the medicine increased early visual responsiveness, making the brain more reactive to incoming visual information. At the same time, it reduces the N170 response, which points to a disruption in the brain's ability to structurally process faces. In other words, while participants' visual systems were more sensitive overall, they became less efficient at recognizing faces as cohort-structured identities.
The most interesting effects appeared in the P300 signal. Under placebo and harmine-only conditions, the brain showed a strong distinction between self and other faces in this later stage of processing. The self face triggered a larger P300 response, reflecting its special significance and the brain's tendency to give it more attention. However, under the influence of the NN-DMT harmine, the difference shrank. The P300 response to the self face became more similar to the response to familiar and unfamiliar faces. This suggests that the brain was no longer treating the self as uniquely special. The neural boundary between self and others had become less defined.
Now, Soy also went on to say that we were surprised by how consistent the neural flattening was across participants and face types, even early visual markers like the N170, which typically reflect facial recognition, were significantly dampened. This suggests that DMT not only alters conscious experience, but also disrupts fundamental stages of face perception, challenging how we define the self at the perceptual level. Importantly, the brain's response to familiar faces, such as celebrities, remained relatively stable across all conditions. This indicates that the medicine did not simply disrupt all face processing indiscriminately. Instead, it appeared to target self-referential processing in a selective way, diminishing the sense of distinction between self and other without erasing the recognition of social meaningful faces. Yeah. We're about halfway through this story. Want to finish her up here? And
sure.
Yeah, go ahead. Read the next paragraph and we'll shut her down.
Okie dokie. The researchers also found that these changes in brain activity were related to participants' subjective experiences. Reduction in the N170 and the P300 signals under the NN-DMT harmine were associated with stronger reports of ego dissolution, spiritual experiences, and vivid imagery. This suggests that the neural blurring of self-other boundaries may contribute to the felt experience of losing oneself of a separate self, a hallmark of many psychedelic experiences.
Yeah, I like this next line. It says, these findings help explain how psychedelics can produce profound changes in the sense of self.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, that's, it's just the things that they're finding out these days.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, it's like, wow. And you can see why the stories are so long because there's just so much to put into it. So, all right. Last story of the day. Here we go. And it shouldn't
Coming to us from Strachan, OCS launches Ontario-grown cannabis badge to highlight local cannabis producers.
Yep, the Ontario Cannabis Store is making it easier for people to support Ontario-grown cannabis products with new Ontario-grown cannabis badge launching on June the 27th. First announced in the 2025 Ontario budget in May, the debut of the Ontario-grown badge coincides with the Buy Ontario, Buy Canadian Day, a province-wide initiative that encourages consumers to support local businesses and workers, held annually on the last Friday in June.
The emblem identifies cannabis producers cultivated in Ontario by federally licensed cannabis producers who, like those in other provinces, follow strict quality and safety regulations. At launch, the Ontario-grown badge will be applied to select dried flower and non-infused pre-rolls and will be featured on approximately 700 items, with more added over time as licensed producers submit products and assertions.
For a product to be eligible for the Ontario-grown badge, it must have 75% of its cannabis inputs grown in Ontario. We're proud to launch the Ontario-grown badge, helping adult Ontarians to easily identify and learn more about cannabis products grown close to home and the passionate, trailblazing licensed producers behind them, says David Lobo, President and CEO of OCS.
Throughout the summer and into the start of fall, Ontario cannabis consumers will start to see the Ontario-grown badge on products across OCS.ca and in retail stores, along with in-store and online promotional material. The new Ontario-grown badge shines a spotlight on local producers who are deeply rooted in the communities they serve. And this is said by Chris Marmon, who's the VP of Sales and Marketing with Carmel Cannabis. Carmel's awesome, by the way. As a craft cultivar, we know our consumers want to connect with brands in their own backyard. It's a big win for local agriculture and for helping consumers discover the incredible growers from right here in Ontario.
There you go. Actually, I have a micro licensed producer about half an hour away from me.
Nice. Yeah.
They
I must say, like we've been doing that here in Nova Scotia. I think pretty much since the beginning. Grown in Nova Scotia, and it's something I appreciate. I mean, especially when I'm traveling to other provinces and whatnot, taking something that's grown and sold only here is really kind of neat to do.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you'd hope you get something that was a little, wasn't older, And by doing that, you're supporting your local people.
Yeah.
Maybe your friend has a job there or something,
Maybe. Yeah.
So, all right. Anything else before we shut her down?
No. I think that's about it.
Okay. That's it. Okay. That's the news for today. We hope you found it educational and informative. Thanks to Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, At-Eze.ca, and Limestone City Hydroponics.ca. And to you, our viewers, thanks for tuning in. And as always, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate. Whatever you do.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own, and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.